Welcome to another edition, a special Yuletide cheer. Eggnog is kind of nasty. Who wants to drink that stuff? Edition of Thinking Out Loud. Joking aside, hope everyone is having a fantastic holiday season. Your travel goes okay. You weren't on American Airlines for those 2 hours early Tuesday morning when everything went down, and that you are getting to Grandma's house safely, like Santa, and ready to spread holiday cheer. My name is Andrew Siciliano. You heard in the background the festive chuckle, much like an elf on the shelf. Although the elf on the shelf doesn't really make noise, he just stares at you in a creepy fashion from behind a shelf. I don't know. Sam Betesh, how the heck are you? I'm rambling.
Elf on a shelf. I'll take that. Elf on a shelf. That's a good one.
There's one of our favorite restaurants in the South Bay here in Southern California has an elf on the shelf, and I'm a frequent resident of said restaurant and bar. And the elf on the shelf during the holiday season is always bouncing around, as the elf often does, except you have to find him on a different bottle every night.
Okay, that's funny. So sort of a Where's Waldo elf situation. I like that. In regards to eggnog, I would say it ranks ahead for you of the mayonnaise cocktail that we found.
It's dairy. So I don't need to drink dairy with my alcohol.
So have you, by the way, found, which I did, a dairy-free eggnog? And I was only curious. Not that I needed eggnog in my life.
That's because I would need eggnog in my life.
I understand that. I didn't. I was curious for the both of us, and because the non-dairy meant that it didn't exactly have eggs in it, I felt better about it.
I like eggs. I ate eggs for breakfast yesterday. I made them myself.
But egg in a cocktail?
I like eggs. I truly do like eggs. I just don't need creamy white sauces or beverages.
Yeah, you know what?
Get rid of the creamy white sauces or beverages for 2025, and America would be a much better place. It would also be a much more fit place as well.
You're absolutely right. That's good. Very festive.
But here to browbeat anybody about their diet nor their fitness. It's not what I do, as far as you know. No, really, I'm not. Please, I'm not suggesting you don't have to eat things. I'm suggesting I will never eat things, which isn't important to you. It doesn't matter. What is important to you, however, is Week 17 of the National Football League, which begins on Christmas Day with 2 games. The Chiefs and the Steelers, the Ravens and the Texans. We'll get to the playoff scenarios and all that in a second. Let me just say this. I know it's odd, but as we said last week, the teams playing on Christmas Day on Wednesday played on Saturday last week. So it's the same turnaround. I know everyone's complaining, and I understand it, but it's the same turnaround that any team would have during the regular season. Let's say week 9, they played on Sunday, and week 10, they played on Thursday. It is the same. It's the same. Now, is it harder because it's the holidays and everyone's got family and kids and grandma and the snow and the wet? Yeah, it is. It truly is. It's also harder because it's later in the season and your body is banged up. But there really is no difference on the calendar. And for those who ask aloud, well, is this going to be every year? The answer is, wait for it, yes. It is going to be every year, because next year Christmas is on Thursday. That's easy. There's a Thursday game every year. The year after that, in 2026, Christmas is on Friday. You see how the sun rotates and the calendar works, right?
It's interesting. Leap years, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Then it goes Saturday. Then it goes Sunday. Everyone's going to be playing on Christmas, or it'll be like it was a few years ago, where there's some games Saturday and then a lot of games on Christmas on Sunday. We've done it many different ways. The only year this really becomes an issue, again, is in 2029 when Christmas is on a Tuesday. Get used to it. Christmas is going to have the NFL every year.
Which, by the way, I think this is most interesting for the NBA, really. There was a time when the
NBA right now.
Right. I mean, think about it, though. The NBA used to sort of own that day, right? That used to be sort of the coming out party for the NBA.
It's when the NBA season should begin.
Yes.
Really.
And for many people, it does.
Yeah. But you see this? I reached back here. This is the Duke. Nice. This is the NFL football, right? The Duke. Santa's going to leave a Duke under your tree.
Yes.
Every single year. We have so many footballs here. We've got the We got the Crucial Catch one. We've got another Crucial Catch one.
That's exciting. I like that.
What else we got here? We got Salute to Service football.
That's good.
There's more. Hold on.
Please give me another.
There's the gold.
Ooh,
50th 50th Super Bowl one. What's this one? This is just the NFL 100 one.
That's good. I just to play along.
There's more.
My friend Drew gave me a flag.
The Dabo Sweeney Clemson game ball.
I have one of those. Siciliano game ball. Come on, that is good. Nice.
Anyway,
anything else? Then the baseball's behind you too. We could go through that, but yeah,
no,
it's okay.
All right. They all have stories. I mean,
I did make a cousin of mine watch Swingers, by the way. I encountered, by the way, this is always fun. I encountered 3 people who had not seen the movie Swingers. Isn't it fun when you encounter someone who hasn't seen one of your, but when you encounter someone who hasn't seen one of your favorite movies, that's nice. To be able to share that and sort of gift that to somebody is a nice thing. For something that you think is so obvious that someone hasn't experienced yet, that's nice.
That's fine.
Here's the thing. She's a nice girl. Yes.
Yeah. And it's an old movie. I mean, I saw that movie in the theater in 1992. No, 96. Okay, yeah. 1996. That movie, Swingers. Right. I mean, Jon Favreau has now gone on to gain many pounds and redo Star Wars and then lose the weight. I've never seen Rudy, in which he starred.
Wow.
Because it's a sports movie, and generally I don't like sports movies.
He thought, by the way, I heard this story. He thought his career was going to launch on that movie, and then only wrote Swingers once he realized that it was not taking off after that. So,
fun fact: once saw him and his family at a what's the taco place we have in LA?
Tito's.
Not Tito's. No. It's a Baja Fresh.
Oh, well, yeah. Baja Fresh is
not that great. Had a Baja Fresh in Brentwood, and you're like, it's one of those randos. It's like, hey, my friend once saw Tom Hanks at a Gap in Westwood. I'm like, great. There's Jon Favreau at a Baja Fresh in Brentwood. Like, it's always like, that used to be our game when we were younger and first moved to LA and we were in our 20s and impressionable and go out every night. It's not, hey, did you see a celebrity? Because you saw one every day. It was like, what was the rando? Like, not just, it was like the most famous person in the most obscure and or random place, right?
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's not, oh, I saw Bono. It's, I saw Bono at Big Dean's. Okay, that's better.
That's a good one. I remember.
But, just putting those
Andy
together.
Dick at Star Shoes was mine rando combo. That was a good one.
Yeah,
back then.
That's a hold on. Was at sushi with some friends in Westwood by my old house at Hamasaku, which is in a mini mall. Was very good. Was a nice place. Not that you had to dress up or anything. It's LA, but good place in a little strip mall next to like a copy center where you would get your passport photo taken, right? But I could walk to it from my old house. We were there, not you, but me and a couple other friends, and Dustin Hoffman was there. Okay. So Dustin Hoffman is leaving. And my buddy Mike, who, and I've told the story before, he's not Mr. Hollywood, works in real estate. My best friend, traveled the world with him, but like he doesn't know. But he recognizes who people are, but just doesn't always click. And he's like, hey. I'm like, I see, buddy. I see. He's like, hey, who's calling me? Hey. I'm like, yeah, dude. He goes, it's Robert De Niro.
No.
I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't.
That's good.
No, it isn't.
Nope.
So then next time we were there, a couple times later, same restaurant, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler were walking out, and I go, hey, it's Robert De Niro. Yeah, no, exactly. Anyway, let's get to the football. This is taking forever. All right. It's true. Let's just run down quick. You want to do the top seeds in the AFC and the NFC?
Yeah, let's take a look.
Let's put baseball terms on it. Let's go AFC first.
All right,
the
AFC.
Chiefs won again because, of course, they won again. They won again. They have Mahomes. He practices the dark arts. He's a sorcerer. They won again. They're 14-1. baseball terms, as we go through the winter meetings here, or the winter meetings are over, but as we go through the hot Christian Walker-led first base market, the Chiefs' magic number is 1. That's all you got to know. 1. Their magic number is 1 over the Bills. They're 2 up in the win column with 2 to play. So any combination of their wins or the Bills' losses, 1, they get home field on the road to the AFC, goes through Arrowhead Stadium, whatever the 4 letters they now have ahead of Arrowhead Stadium. 1.
GEHA.
Them 2. The magic number is 1 for the bye, and a seat on the couch where Patrick Mahomes can elevate his ankle and heal. That's it. 1. Uno. Okay? So in the AFC, 3 of the 4 divisions are clinched. The Chiefs have the West. The South belongs to the Texans, the team they beat this past Saturday. The West, I told you, yep. The East belongs to the Bills. And then the Steelers and Ravens are both in the North. They still have to figure out who wins it, and that could come down to Week 18. And then there are 2 wild card spots. The Chargers, the Broncos, the Colts, the Dolphins, and the Bengals are all fighting for those 2 wild card spots. That is your AFC. Clean and easy. The NFC, let's use the baseball terms again. Can we? The Lions at 13-2. The Vikings are right behind them in the NFC North at 13-2. The Packers are there at 11-4, also in the NFC North, where we focus on the Eagles, who lost to the Commanders at 12-3. The Lions' magic number, again, using baseball numbers and terms, 2. Any combination of Lions victories and either a Vikings loss, right? Lions victories and Vikings losses gives the Lions the NFC North and home field throughout the NFC playoffs. That is the easiest way to think about it. The NFC East belongs to the Eagles at 12-3. They are in. The Vikings and Packers have clinched at least NFC wildcard spots. In the NFC South, the Bucs are blowing it. The Falcons and Bucs are both 8-7, but the Falcons have the sweep. They have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So the Falcons are in first. The Bucs are in second, rather. The Falcons cannot be a wild card, but the Buccaneers can either win the division or be a wild card. And in the NFC West, it's the Rams or the Seahawks. Only one can get in. Neither can be a wild card. So either the Rams win the division or the Seahawks win the division. Neither can be a wild card. Sam, did all of that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much for that. And in the AFC, I just wanted to look at one thing first, which is, and this is fascinating, as you just ran down the Wednesday. By the way, week 17, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's pretty awesome. And you run through the gamut of all of the possible.
Or exhausting. I've heard it both ways.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, every network is available. And as you laid out, the Chiefs, this is for the Chiefs, a simple scenario: Netflix and chill. Chiefs are a Netflix and chill.
Except don't be an old person and not know what that actually means.
Okay. Yes, obviously we understand what that means, but the Chiefs, Netflix and chill, winning the game on Wednesday on Netflix and then resting essentially the rest of the way. That's fascinating. The most interesting thing that I'd like to see, and this is just a wanting piece here, is I'd love for the Steelers to find a way to win that game so that week 18 comes down to 2 different scenarios here. So not only would it affect the 1 seed, of course, whereas if the Chiefs lose and the Bills win, then week 18, we still have to wait to see what happens there. And the Chiefs game against the Broncos with a fully stocked Chiefs roster is much more interesting because then the Bengals still have that chance. Bengals and Broncos playing head to head. That is fascinating for this Saturday lineup this week. And the Bengals still having a shot at getting in week 18. That's more interesting. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you see it any other way, but I find the Bengals, I'm so it's just such a mystery that the Bengals have the number one passer and the number one receiver and wouldn't be in. I just think that's
a mystery.
The defense is right. The defense is not good.
It's not
the
a
defense
mystery.
is not good. Although
why are you flummoxing to buy the Bengals?
I guess I'm not flummoxed. It's not that I'm flummoxed.
They held Dorian Thompson-Robinson to 6 points and they turned the Browns over 3 times.
Yeah.
They were 31st in points allowed. There's no mystery.
It's just that I'd rather see them in the postseason. I'd rather see them in the postseason. And I love the Bo Nix stories and Sean Payton, et cetera, what they've done. But the Bengals are a more interesting opponent. I just see the Bengals as more of a shot at winning a wild card game than the Broncos in that scenario, regardless. So that's what I'd like to see. But as we know, yes, as I said, the Chiefs, Netflix and chill. In the NFC, there hasn't been enough conversation about Minnesota with the 1 seed and the bye. There was so much on the Eagles and their win streak, which obviously was snapped against the Commanders. And by the way, you mentioned the magic number with the Lions. The Eagles do have the slimmest of chances at the 1 seed. They would need both the Vikings and the Lions to finish with more
almost
losses.
Not worth talking about.
It's not even. It's just to mention it. It is a 5% chance, I believe it was given. Not that the percentages matter, but yes, it's essentially not happening. So discussion about Detroit and Minnesota. I don't know why I'm seeing this as Minnesota with the 1 would just, it feels like it would flip everything on its head. We spent so much time with Detroit in that 1 slot that we just haven't really considered. It's as if Minnesota just went away for a couple of weeks and now is back. And of course, should they beat the Lions week 18 and they would be the 1, that it just feels like that's Minnesota's shot. That's Minnesota's best shot at getting in there, getting to the Super Bowl, and it could absolutely happen. I mean, this is very much in play, more so than I think people are really giving it.
I think it's always been in play, and I think we've just chosen to not believe in Sam Darnold and not pay enough attention to it. Sure. I also think it's circular here because it's now we give the Vikings attention after the Vikings claim we didn't give them attention, but we really were giving them attention, but it wasn't the attention. It's like the old where, fans back in the day when SportsCenter was the only show that anybody cared about would say, we're getting no respect. And you would ask, well, why do you think you're not getting any respect? And they would say, well, they didn't do our highlights until like 15 minutes into SportsCenter. I'm like, that's not respect. That's just a producer deciding what he thinks is the most fun or is going to get the most eyeballs or the highest rating or the highest viewer retention on your A block, right? That's what that is. Well, that's respect. I'm like, no, actually it isn't. It's nothing to do with respect. They respect you. They just choose to not give you the same attention. Well, attention equals respect. No, it isn't. Like, I respect you. I just may choose to speak about something else because I think it moves the needle a little bit more. I think everyone has respected the Vikings, and they've known they're a good team. They just have thought that Sam Darnold would eventually come back to earth, like the Cardinals have come back to earth.
Majorly.
Like a lot of teams come back to earth. They haven't. And they're good, and they're real. And you should take them seriously.
And one thing I also don't lump, because this happens so often. This is again, whether we want to lump ourselves in as media, but let's just say, media, there's a tendency to tire out on certain stories. And so in our mind, Detroit is this excellent behemoth of a team. But I'd love to take a step back and recognize the Lions making it to the Super Bowl and what that would mean for a league that has been so used to the Lions being irrelevant other than playing on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, the Lions have been a dorm. I mean, they were good last year.
This is a 2-year run for them here.
That's fine. That's fine, a 2-year run. But a spectacular collapse in the NFC Championship. Let's call it what it was. Sure. It was a collapse. They were there to win that game. It didn't happen. The Lions being the Super Bowl, the Lions winning a Super Bowl, I mean, forget it. But even the Lions being in the Super Bowl, I don't want to forget, as much as I'm thinking it would be cool to see Minnesota as the 1 seed, the Lions to be the most dominant team, almost wire to wire in the NFC for an entire season and then going to the Super Bowl.
They're not there yet.
That is unlikely. Wow, would that be unlikely? I mean, that's just,
they're not there yet.
No, they're not. And there's a lot.
They could be. It would be a great story. That's why they play the games.
Yeah, number 1 offense in football. Points per game is pretty special.
Yeah, they're great. Let's do the Rams scenario here because we've been doing this for a long time. And listen, every Tuesday during November and December, the league emails out the playoff scenarios, and everyone runs to Twitter to copy and paste the playoff scenarios. There are people out there, Joe Ferreira, among others, Ivan as well, who have been crunching these numbers, and they have the stuff like Sunday night, but they're not official. And there are a lot of times I would come into the office at NFL Network and go, guys, you realize it's X, Y, and Z, and this team is in. And they'd be like, yeah, we've done that math, but it's not official yet. We can't go with that. I'm like, but it's right. I have never seen the league tweet out, email out, send out as an official scenario what they did today. I'm going to read from this piece of paper here. I'm going to hold it up. I mean, bad focus, but here it is. This is an official league document. The Los Angeles Rams can clinch the NFC West division title with Week 17. A Rams win plus a Seahawks loss or tie. Easy. Okay? Magic number 2, Rams win, Seahawks loss. They're in. Number 2, Rams win plus the Rams clinch the strength of victory tiebreaker
my favorite
over the Seahawks. Okay, now they've printed something like that before. Rams Seahawks, by the way, Sunday, Week 18 in Los Angeles. What they have never done is then lay out how they can clinch the strength of victory tiebreaker.
I love this.
And it says, note, Rams clinch strength of victory over Seahawks with 3.5 or more wins from the following teams: Minnesota, Buffalo, San Francisco, Washington, Cincinnati, or Cleveland. And they laid them all out. They're on the screen here if you're watching on the YouTubes. They laid them all out. They've never done that before. So the Rams can wrap up the division this week. If they win, if they beat the Cardinals, the game is in Los Angeles. I have 2 tickets available. Go to SeatGeek if you'd like to buy them. And then 3.5 victories from that list. That means they need 3 wins and a tie, or 4 wins, 3.5 victories from any of the 6 on your screen. It's like choice of sides at the barbecue restaurant. Would you like the slaw? Is it a mayonnaise slaw, a vinegary slaw? Would you like the beans? Would you like the what else? The
collard
fries,
greens, corn on the cob,
the corn on the cob,
French
what
fries.
Would you like?
Mashed potatoes.
What would you like? Or like a dim sum menu, or like it's the prefix menu where you're like, really? There's a prefix menu? I'm just ordering like steak, chicken, or fish. Really? That's it? I can't order anything else? Can't you? No, sir. We didn't prep any of those items on the menu. These are the only 6 you can choose from. Please, choice of 3.5. That's it. They actually did this. So there is a scenario, and it's not that far-fetched.
No, it's not at all.
It's really not that far-fetched. That Week 18 Rams Seahawks don't mean anything. And if that's the case, I have 2 for Rams Seahawks Week 18 that you could also buy right now on SeatGeek. Buy them now while the game's starts.
You know what's most interesting about this? And that scenario is wild when you put it up there and look at it. Although when you look at what those games are, did we run through the opponents on the 6 teams that are playing and the 4 wins that you could get?
No,
because
that's exhausting.
They're all, yeah, but they're all just so winnable. When you look at it, it's from an elimination pool standpoint, if you're looking, they're all very winnable. I'd say Niners Lions is probably, maybe the most that seems right now.
But
difficult,
you only need 3.5 of them.
Exactly. You need 3. It looks very, very possible. Cincinnati's got a game they're absolutely. Cincinnati and Washington are both playing for something. Absolutely. So is Buffalo. So is Minnesota. It's just those 4 right there, quote unquote, need a win for everything to stay alive that they're looking for. So it really, really is possible. But I was going to say the most fascinating part of the scenario is that there is any NFC West clinching scenario in Week 17 based on how this division has looked all season. The Cardinals were leading this division. Was that a month ago? Was that a month ago that the Cardinals were on top in the West? It certainly feels like it, and they were for some time. And the Seahawks, we know 3 weeks ago, were leading, and now the Rams are. And the fact that the Rams have a clinch, and the fact that we all had Week 18 circled with Seahawks and Rams, and it could mean nothing. That's hilarious.
Or it could be the division title game, and it could be Sunday night.
And it's a win and in because, as you mentioned, neither would get the wild card.
Right.
That's pretty
Neither
interesting.
can be the wild card.
I'll say about that scenario, I'm so glad that our friends put together the strength of victory scenario spelled out as clearly as it has been, because that is so rarely understood.
In years past, they've never done it.
I've never seen it, and
they've never done it. Like, and I had 14 years at NFL Network. We would get the scenarios,
right,
and they'd be clean. And I would sit there with the research staff because I geeked out on this stuff, and I would go, wait a minute, but strength of victory, this and this and this and this and this, and all of us, we would have fun doing it.
It's fun.
We'd be sitting there trying to piece it all together and find crazy backdoor math on strength of victory, right? Had a lot of fun doing it. They spelled it out.
It's easy. Now, I mean, that makes it easy.
Yeah. Like on Sunday, I was obviously coming home from Cincinnati. Browns fell to the Bengals. It was freezing in that booth. Absolutely freezing. I was okay. I had my Browns issued team, dry fit tops and bottoms. That was good. But my partner, Nathan Zagura, said it was the coldest he had ever been in the booth. Bengals turned the heat off in the booth because we opened the window. Same for CBS. Did you see Spiro Ditas with that absolutely fantastic scarf?
Yes,
he had to wear it because there was no heat in the booth. Turned it off. They turned it off. Thank you. Thank you, Bengals. Turned it off. Actually, wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that bad, but we did have water bottles freeze on the desk. Like, not a TikTok trick, not for the socials. Should have put it on the socials.
Yeah, you should have.
Bottle of water. Frozen. Anyway, but here, the league spelled it out. Like, here's your choices. Go get 3.5 of them, and you'll be good. Anyway, I'm coming home, and from the Bengals game, Browns-Bengals, I'm running through airports, and I got a text from somebody with the Rams trying to, asking about my game and how it tied into their game. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then I had it explained to me about strength of victory tiebreaker. I'm like, oh, wow. So they were on top of it. And they knew what was going on. It is that time of the year. All right. Let's get to, now that we get the playoff scenarios out of the way, let's do a quick thought here on Jayden Daniels, because, Sam, this relates to your Eagles. Jalen Hurts knocked out, concussion, not knocked out, but concussion protocol. Kenny Pickett had to come in and do the thing for the Eagles last week. He's not the story. What is the story is Jayden Daniels won the Rookie of the Year. Now, you can push back and say, Bo Nix. I've seen Bo Nix in person. Heck of a quarterback. The Broncos found their guy. Good for them. I like him. I think he's really good. He can make plays with his legs. He doesn't get flustered. He can throw the ball downfield well. He can throw on the move. Far more athletic than you think he is. Love him. Brock Bowers has 100 receptions already. It's all but a lock, regardless of who's throwing passes for the Raiders. Good job winning, by the way, Raiders. Thank you for that. That he's going to break Puka Nakua's single-season record set a year ago for receptions as a rookie. Brock Bowers is phenomenal. But Jayden Daniels is the Rookie of the Year, and I don't need stats. Matter of fact, I don't want to hear the stats. Don't tell me the numbers. What he did with the 5 touchdown passes and rallying the team back. Again, just another ridiculous chapter. He deserves it. He has resurrected a franchise. Remember that iconic image back in 2012, week 1, the Redskins on the road in New Orleans. RG3 sitting on his derriere at the Superdome, hands up in the air like this after throwing a long touchdown pass. Remember that? Jayden Daniels has a season worth of those moments. Not to take away from RG3's amazing 2012 campaign. Wish he had stayed healthy. Wish that could have continued. It didn't. Jayden Daniels is that, and then some, and then some. He has resurrected this franchise. He rallied them back again. He is worth the price of admission in every building he plays in. Give him the Rookie of the Year. And if it isn't him, call me about Brock Bowers, but it's Jayden Daniels. Just give it to him now.
It's also the position, quarterback being what it is, and the learning curve at that.
Exactly.
And I know and people talk about wide receiver being one where the curve is generally very slow, but we understand that quarterback is so much more nuanced than that.
Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, both fantastic as well.
And that's actually, and that's exactly what I was going to say, which is essentially quickly skirting past the idea that I don't even have to say that I agree with you because the world does at this point. At this point, the 5 touchdowns, and yes, we can say had to overcome turnovers as well. There were the 2 picks and the 5 total turnovers by the offense. Of course, 3 he had nothing to do with, but that is a small part of it. There was also a lull, if you want to call it, in his season, but it's really a lull between history. He had the most prolific 4-game start of any quarterback ever, not even discussing rookies, ever. First 4 games for any quarterback ever from a completion percentage standpoint. He had that. Yes. Then there was a bit of a lull, but the Eagles win solidifies it. Totally with you. But I wanted to say this much for LSU. The fact that LSU has 3 offensive rookies in the conversation is pretty special. And the one that we didn't see coming necessarily like this would be those Jaguars, Brian Thomas Jr. Just wanted to say, Brian Thomas, when it comes to receivers, the offensive receivers this season, Brian Thomas Jr. is the runaway there. But the idea that Brian Thomas, Malik Neighbors, and Jaden Daniels, 3 players from LSU, are all in this conversation for offensive rookie of the year. How did they? And by the way, that was not necessary. And this is not now, again, Burrow came into the league, right? I mean, Burrow and Chase, they didn't lose a game. That's one thing. And that was obvious. Justin Jefferson, Burrow, and Chase. Think about that. And they did not lose a game. In fact, that is still the most prolific offense in college football history. Give it to that. But the idea that this team wasn't, you're right, Andrew, LSU, how did they ever lose? And they were not really all that competitive. They did beat Alabama once, but that's all. I just wanted to say Brian Thomas. You mentioned Bowers. I just also wanted to tip of the cap. Brian Thomas, what a special season for a team that's not doing anything special in regards to the Jaguars. That's it. But also Jaden Daniels, and we're not going to show them necessarily right now per se, but the Hail Mary as just a moment, right? The Hail Mary, obviously a walk-off win in regards to the Hail Mary. The walk-off throw against the Eagles to Crowder, another one. And remember, the Monday night throw while getting drilled against the Bengals. Those 3, and that put away the Bengals, wasn't a walk-up, but that essentially sealed the game. Those 3 passes alone, as you said, the Rolodex of memories and moments from Jaden Daniels, we may never see anything like that from a rookie at all.
Until Cam Ward does it.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Of course. No,
it was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, there is always a next. And if you want to see a collection of talent, may I take your eyes to Columbus, where the Buckeyes handled Tennessee, and another one of these home team gets a blowout victory in the opening weekend of the college football playoffs. Remember, Marvin Harrison Jr. is already with the Arizona Cardinals, and then he was replaced by Jeremiah Smith. But Ohio State has 2 first-round talents at running back. Running backs don't necessarily go in the first round, but they have 2 guys back there in Travion Henderson and Judkins, plus 3 at wide receiver. 3. Wow. 3. In Jeremiah Smith, who can't get drafted for 2 more years, in Emeka Ibuka, who's a senior, who's going to be a first-round pick, and Carnell Tate, who maybe he's a second-round pick, maybe, but he's good enough to go in the bottom of the first. Carnell Tate on any other school is a legit number 1. Oh my, that guy's near the top of your draft board, wide receiver. They have all that talent. So much talent. It's ridiculous. And I think Ohio State's going to win the entire thing. I truly do. Throwing Caleb Downs on the defensive side of the ball, there's another first-round pick. You have a first-round pick, at least 1, maybe 2 on the offensive line. That team it's an embarrassment of riches. They should have beaten Michigan by 4 scores. They didn't, and now I think they're going to win the entire thing. All right, moving on. Final thought here, if you will. Happy holidays for Mike McCarthy. You saw after the Cowboys held on, they beat the Buccaneers. Full disclosure, I was falling asleep on the plane, just exhausted, and my Wi-Fi was spotty. But Buccaneers fumble the ball late. Cowboys win. Cowboys now have a very reasonable shot. What do they have left? Cowboys have Philly and Washington, so they're 2 tough games. But right now, Dallas is 7-8. They're right around 500 after multiple 12-win seasons for Mike McCarthy. You saw the embrace and the conversation in the locker room. Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy after the game, and Jerry has repeatedly, and Steven as well, said all the positive stuff out loud the last few weeks about Mike McCarthy. I personally think the Cowboys might be better served with something different. I'm not convinced that you bring Mike McCarthy back, they're going to win a Super Bowl next year. But I just want to remind people that how do I say this? I think a lot of people are getting the Mike McCarthy story wrong. A lot of people are like, well, are the Cowboys going to fire Mike McCarthy? That ship sailed. He's not getting fired mid-season. They are not going to fire him. His contract is up, people. The question isn't, should you get rid of Mike McCarthy? The question is Mike McCarthy worthy of a multi-year, 8-figure extension? That's the question you should be asking. We all agree he's done enough this year. They've won, 4 out of 5 games. They're over 500 since Dak got hurt. He has held on. They have not sunk. He did the job. Do you want to give him a new contract? Because his deal is up. This is Jason Garrett all over again. This isn't fire him. It's, do you want to bring him back for multiple years? Because he doesn't want to come back, I'm assuming, for just a 1-year contract. And that's not fair to anybody. If you're Jerry Jones, if you're the Cowboys, are you willing to say, hey, let's pick a number, let's call it 9-10 million. Let's call it 10. And now it doesn't count against the cap, but are you willing to give Mike McCarthy 3 years and $30 million? Are you? Because if you bring him back, you're going to bring him back for multiple years. Don't listen to the screaming heads on TV that are misframing or framing this poorly. It's, do you want to give him a multi-year extension? Because, Sam, his deal is up. And I think it's one of the most misunderstood football stories of the entire season. He's a free agent. There are, for example, the Jets use a team that already has an opening. If the Jets or the Saints, for example, wanted to sign Mike McCarthy, his contract is up at the end of the year.
There's nothing this league likes more than hiring a coach from somewhere else. It's very rare. I mean, again, the stories of teams that find the new name and it works out. Yes, that has happened. And we all remember when Gruden was really someone we hadn't heard of when the Raiders hired him. But so often, and retread has a negative connotation. I don't want to say that. Experience, though, gets hired again and again. Someone who has done it that you can say, wow, we'd like that guy that did that thing for him to do that over here with this team. That is what you see again and again. Mike McCarthy would be a head coach somewhere else. He would be a head coach somewhere else. In my estimation, he absolutely would. I also wanted to say quickly, looking at, and not necessarily coach of the year conversation, but how many coaches this season are having wildly spectacular seasons. There are teams playing over their head this season, and there are teams.
Matt LaFleur.
Yes. But again, LaFleur and O'Connell, different conversations. O'Connell is the classic, we didn't expect this from Minnesota, and they are over their head. Green Bay is, he does this every season.
All they do is win.
LaFleur wins and wins and wins. 13 wins, 11 wins. LaFleur wins. With Rodgers, without Rodgers, LaFleur wins and is worthy of the conversation. Again, the Steelers are good again and again and again. What Tomlin did this season, particularly to the decision that he made between Fields and Russell Wilson, we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how and again, winning the division would be more of a conversation and more of a feather in his cap than not. But regardless, the Steelers are better than we expected, I would say. I mean, it's a team that never has a losing season, but better than expected.
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah.
About the Steelers?
Sure.
How many playoff games have the Steelers won with since TJ Watt got there?
Okay. Since TJ Watt got there, the Steelers have won. I'm going to guess 0. Yeah.
The Browns have won more playoff games with Myles Garrett than the Steelers have with TJ Watt.
That's a surprising number.
I'm a Mike Tomlin fan. I'm not suggesting he needs to be fired. But there was even a column written, I'm getting ready for Browns Steelers 2 weeks ago. There was a column written 2 weeks ago in Pittsburgh that I was reading on the plane. It was a review of Hard Knocks, in which Mike Tomlin is clearly one of the stars of Hard Knocks, right?
Sure.
That basically said, like, please, enough of this Mike Tomlin propaganda. Win a stinking game in January. You're nothing to me. Like, it's all hype. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but that was the tone. It was like, fine, big deal. He's going to put on a show for Hard Knocks, win in January.
I remember when that was the knock. I believe it was Jimmy Johnson who had mentioned and pointed out that Jeff Fisher had not won enough playoff games. Jeff Fisher had put up a number of seasons in Tennessee where they were not necessarily up to stuff. And at that time, it was thought that Jeff Fisher was a cream of the crop coach. And frankly, shortly after Jimmy Johnson said that was the end of the tenure for Jeff Fisher in Tennessee. So I remember how these things can creep up. Tomlin, however, if you look at the 500 or better with what the rosters have been, I still think the totality of that is impressive. What you just pointed out, I have not
won a playoff game since TJ Watt's got 100 sacks since they last won a playoff game.
Look, that's ridiculous. Well, to add on to that in regards to what Tomlin has or hasn't done in Coach of the Year and just best coaches and incredible coaching performances this season, Andy Reid's another one. You just sort of look past it, right? But what the Chiefs are doing year in and year out, and again, just for this season, and certainly if they finish with only one loss, that should be looked at. I mean, that is incredible. And of course, anyone with a rookie quarterback to be a playoff team, so Peyton or Dan Quinn, both worthy of that conversation also. And anyone overcoming injuries. I mean, those are the stories that really happens. But you mentioned LaFleur. And considering where McCarthy was before LaFleur, that's why it came up. This quickly on McCarthy. How fair or unfair is it that the Cowboys are only judged after the wild card round of the playoffs? How many teams have that? How many teams have that as the bar? Not that many. There are teams that are happy to win a wild card game. There are. Let's everyone wants to win a Super Bowl, but there are teams, there are franchises and organizations that are happy and consider it a very good season if you win a wild card game. Somehow in Dallas, it's not. And frankly, you and I have spoken about this more than once. The idea that the Cowboys are supposed to be this team in the NFC Championship game all the time, it takes a lot to get to the playoffs. It takes a lot to win a division. It takes a lot to win a playoff game. And it's unfortunate that New England and now Kansas City has done so much that fan bases think you just write the name in. Andrew, what's the number? How many new playoff teams do we have every single season? 4 minimum, right? 4 minimum every single season.
It's 4 minimum for since 1970, something like that. Yeah. But it's usually 7 or 8.
Okay. So that goes to show you don't just write these teams in pen at the beginning of the season and say, that's it. We're the Niners this season. It doesn't happen. You're not just in the playoffs because you had a good season last year. It doesn't happen that way. So to be relevant each season, and again, this one you'd have to chalk up to injury for McCarthy, wouldn't you? You'd have to say you lost Dak. Yes, they're 4-3 without Dak right now, and we'll see what happens over the next 2 games. They're playing above their head right now. That's not going to be enough for the Cowboys. It's not.
No. It isn't, but a lot of it is just the hype machine. I mean, it's the hype machine. Get ready. I mean, go watch the Netflix trailer for the Jerry Jones doc. He says, he looks into the camera and says it's going to be a soap opera every day. Those are the Dallas Cowboys. So it's a hype machine. I mean,
also,
period.
Jerry Jones has also been oddly loyal to head coaches.
Yes,
right. Look at his history. Right. I mean, Chan Gailey, Wade Phillips. There have been Jason Garrett, for that matter. There have been coaches that I would say he is stuck with longer than other owners. And yes, many of them have ties to the organization from the past, and maybe he's got some nostalgia there, but he does hold on to coaches. So I wouldn't be stunned. I just think it's probably too easy. You know, when you're in a relationship.
He's coming back. He's coming back. Mike McCarthy's coming back.
Okay.
I'm saying that fans are misunderstanding the conversation. It's not, is he getting fired? It's, you got to pay the man.
Right.
Right. Like if you bring him back, it is a multi-year return, to your point, because he doesn't get rid of coaches.
Exactly. And to me, that's a lot to commit to. That's a lot, because in so many ways, the Dak injury feels to me like there's 2 different Mike McCarthys this season. This is almost the minus Dak is almost the interim version of Mike McCarthy. He's almost the interim head coach, the without Dak part of this. Because getting this roster to this point is one thing, but getting the fully functional roster is another. But I guess it's easy to point to the idea that Dak was gone. And I'll still say it because I've said it so many times. The run game, I just don't understand what the commitment was this season from a running back standpoint. I thought
Rico Dowdle's going to get 1,000 yards, man.
Okay. Okay. For a team that is in the conversation for best rushing offense year in and year out, it wasn't this season.
Just telling you.
That's
and
fun.
By the way, about the point you made about how many playoff teams.
Yeah.
Right. So let's look at the AFC. Kansas City, Buffalo, Houston, Baltimore, Pittsburgh have all clinched so far. What do they all have in common?
Last season, right?
Huh?
They were all playoff teams last year.
They were all playoff teams a year ago. So there are 2 spots remaining in the AFC. They will go to either the Chargers, Broncos, Colts, Dolphins. Like the Dolphins have a shot. The Dolphins made the playoffs a year ago. Bengals did not make the playoffs a year ago. They're still in the running, but in all likelihood, we have 2 new playoff teams in the AFC. 2. In the NFC, Detroit's in, Philly's in. They were in last year. Green Bay is in last year. Minnesota's in. That is the only of all the playoff teams now. We know 9 of the 14 playoff teams. Only one of them, the Minnesota Vikings, is a new team. That record or that streak,
it's in jeopardy.
It's definitely in jeopardy. Now, the Bucs could get in and win the NFC South. Unlikely, but right now Falcons have the upper hand. The Bucs could win the NFC South. The Rams can win the NFC West. So they would be repeat teams. And then you would have 1 spot remaining in the NFC, likely the Commanders. And then there's a chance we only have 3 new playoff teams.
Could it be 2, by the way?
We'll actually only have 2.
Yeah, could it be 2, right? The only guarantee is 2.
Potentially. But I think it's more likely 3. But there's a chance, yeah.
So this is okay. It's in jeopardy. That's great. We started, you and I started this season marveling at who the 4 to 6 teams were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that we're only going to end up with 2 or 3, or could, with 2 weeks left. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's a good one. And especially because so many seasons have seen so different and new because of what Washington has done and Minnesota has done, because those have been such storylines. It makes everyone think and remember to, oh, wow, yes, new teams always. But yeah, that could be nearly it. Chargers would be interesting also.
It could happen. So put that in your stocking and smoke it. There, whatever that means. I just made it up and it makes no sense. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah. Hope everyone is safe and happy and healthy and can spend it with family one way or the other. Good luck getting to where you're going. Please drive safely, 2 hands on the wheel. Don't drink and drive. All those fun things. Here's to peace, health, happiness, prosperity, and everything coming up in the new league year. And the new year as well in 2025. The new league year doesn't begin until mid-March of 2025. Sam, the same goes to you, obviously, and your family as well. Happy Hanukkah.
Yes.
Keep them candles torched, as somebody once said. And who was that? That was like a video. Remember? It was like interviewing Shaq at Hanukkah. Remember that?
Yeah.
Keep them torched years ago. Before TikTok. Go look it up, kids. Yeah. Keep them torched. For Sam, I'm Andrew. So long, everybody.